Okay, the Brisbane Broncos have ended up with their first wooden spoon ever in their existence. They lost to North Queensland this evening in a do-or-die winner-takes-all game, and they lost. They lost 32 points to 16 at Suncorp. They were 12-0 up. They were leading in this game, and at 12-0, by half-time it's 12-all. Second half they conceded 20 points and scored 4. Sums up their season, and their defence has averaged 32 points against throughout the season, so they haven't been defensively very good all year. But the problems stem back not only just to last season, Seabold's first season, but they stem back to the end of the Wayne Bennett era. Roster management and player development have been highlighted as issues. The way that the club handled Bennett's departure at the end of the 2018 season and Seabold's appointment a season early in 2019, that was mishandled. Seabold was meant to take over this season, and there were question marks about the move then, with the fact he only had one season under his belt at South Sydney, and the team he was taking over was going through some transitional changes in their squad makeup. A lot of young players were coming through, and a lot of senior players were either leaving or retiring. It didn't work out. I mean, last season they scraped into finals. They had a few sticky patches last season, but the finals defeat to Parramatta, showed where they were, and they had a long way to go. Admittedly, the start of this season was bright. They won their first 2 games. The lockdown comes. Something's happened between round 2 and round 3, because round 3 comes along, the resumption of play on May 28th, and they never got going. They won 1 game in 18, and they really didn't get going at all. And if the season went from round 3 to round 20, and it was an 18-round season, and we discount the first 2 rounds, they would have had the wooden spoon a couple of weeks ago. Their defence is the worst in the league. They're relying on Staggs, Harmsworth and Carrigan, 3 of their young players who are all under the age of, I think, 22, to lead the team. They're their 3 best players this season consistently. They've got no set half-back pairing. Darius Boyd's been tried at full-back, centering in the halves, but never on the wing, even though he's also played wings, and he was going to be the senior player in the squad, and he's not even part of the leadership group. Some really bizarre coaching decisions there. The 2 players they've signed to bring into the club during the season, in Ben Teo and Isaac Luke, are both in their mid-30s and near the end of their careers, and they're not long-term plans to be there. They probably won't be there next season, and they haven't really played at the level that was expected of them. The issues have been there. Like they've suffered several record league defeats to other teams. I don't know what you do with this Brisbane side, but the fact that they haven't announced a replacement to Seabold, the fact they've got no CEO for next season announced yet, means it's going to be hard to sign players for next season when other teams, such as North Queensland or the Warriors, Canterbury, the Dragons, they've all sacked coaches this season. They've already announced replacements and they're already signing players for next season. So when Brisbane come to the player market to get incoming players in, because there are players like Darius Boyd retiring, there's going to be a few roster spaces available. It's going to be harder for them to sign players who are off contract or who are willing to do a swap, because other clubs have already sorted out their salary cap and their roster spaces for next season, which means it's harder for Brisbane to build a squad and set their squad up for next year. And if that's the case, it's going to be a very young team next season with even more young faces coming through. And if it doesn't matter if it's Kevin Walters or Paul Green coaching this side, that's going to make it a lot harder for them to aim up the table and improve. I can't see them being a finals team next year, but anything better than the wooden spoon, I think, is an improvement. They've got to improve their defence. That's their first mission, is to make sure their defence is more watertight, because averaging 32 points against per game, average that up, if you were to do that every game over a 20-game season, that's 640 points. In negative, they've conceded. That's 640 points. If you were to do that every game, they would have conceded. And some games they've conceded more than 32. They've conceded 50 plus. So if you use 640 as a base level, and they haven't been scoring an average of 32 points a game. I think their average is about 18. There's a reason why they've got the worst for and against record when it comes to points scored and points conceded. They're over 200 points conceded worse than Canterbury and North Queensland, the 2 other worst defences in the league. There's a reason why they're bottom. So defence has got to be the first thing they fix, and then roster management. I mean, God, the average age of that forward pack is I think below 25, and some of their key players are under the age of 23. The three best players, Staggs, Harmsworth, and Carrigan, are all under the age of 23. Yeah, they've been consistently the best players all season. That tells you something when you're putting a lot of pressure on these young lads in a market that only it's a one-team market in Brisbane. It's a one-team city, so the Brisbane media is already focused intensely on this team. That's what did for Anthony Seibold was the media speculation around the team, the player misbehaviour off the field with Pangai Jr., and then a whole host of squad members breaching lockdown protocols one night. It's not a good look, especially when the media has a frenzy up there. And when you don't have a good relationship with the media, or it's a bit bitty and it's a bit gnarly, that harms the team. There's been a lot of off-field incident. But then you look at the boardroom, outgoing CEO not adequately replaced. They sacked Seibold quite some time ago, a couple of months ago now. They haven't announced a replacement for him. They've dragged out that process. That could have been done before the end of the season, so the new coach, be it Paul Green or Kevin Walters, can assess the situation, do some video scouting, and start bringing players in for next season. Until that decision is done, player recruitment is going to be more difficult. And until they get a new CEO, to rubber stamp decisions, that's going to be more difficult. Speculation about Wayne Bennett hovering around, will he come back to the club as a elite performance coaching director? And then you've got, Craig Bellamy again being linked to the club as a coaching director. That speculation isn't going to help the situation. There seems to be no definitive action off the field in the boardroom, and on the field it's been a disaster. And it's not all Seibold's fault, but he has to take his fair cop of the blame for some of his roster management decisions. But then that also has to look at player development, player recruitment, youth development, scouting, and that goes back to Wayne Bennett's era in charge. So the whole thing is the inevitable has been delayed for so long because they've managed to pull things out by hat and make finals football when in other seasons other teams wouldn't. So we'll see what happens next season, but I can't see them being a finals team, but I could be proved wrong. But there's defence and recruitment, player recruitment are key priorities for whoever gets that head coaching job. But for now, thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts below. I'll have some more videos for you very, very soon.